Thank you for joining us for our second episode in our series of one-on-one discussions with industry leaders and experts in their field. Today, we're very lucky to have Daphne Jones with us. She's a former executive from GE, Hospira, J&J, and also has experience at IBM. She has worked in digital technologies and how they transform business. She's on a number of boards presently, and she's writing a book. We are thrilled to be having our conversation with her today, and we hope you enjoy the conversation. Thank you so much. Daphne, it is so nice to meet you again. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us. I wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit about your background. Can you tell us where you started and how your career progressed to where you are today?
Sure, and thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure, and I hope that I can give some inspiration and some instruction, if you will, for folks to learn some of the mistakes that I've made and the achievements that I've had. So I started out, as a poor Black girl in a very small town in the south side of Chicago. It's a town called Phoenix, Illinois. About 1,500 people live there. So not much there in terms of industry or businesses, except I think there was a dry cleaner, quite a few liquor stores and some churches and some bodegas, if you will. So my mom and dad came to this country from Jamaica. So they were immigrants from Jamaica and were very proud of being under the British rule. And I remember they would always talk about education. The focus was on learning the Queen's English and writing the way the Queen would write and all that. So very, very focused on that. But we were 7 people living in a house with 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. So it was really a humble beginning. And because of my mom's focus on education, I was able to skip first grade because she homeschooled me, even though my other 3 siblings, they were in Jamaica while I stayed in the US. And so I had the brunt of her attention. And so I skipped first grade, went through school, did a lot of, fun things, went to college, got my bachelor's degree in 3 years, and I got my MBA in 1 year. So I think all told, I skipped 3 years of school as I was growing up. And so I found myself being a problem solver, an analytical person. I would debate things. I would ask why not, how come, and was intrigued by technology, and I was intrigued by business, even though I didn't grow up in an environment where there was the exposure to business, except when you go to a store or something. And so I joined IBM fresh out of college, and that was 1979. So I immediately aged myself with that date. But I joined IBM in systems engineering, sales, and all that, and kind of went up the ladder within IBM. But then my mom and dad died. And they died while I was at IBM. And then I realized that if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And so I devoted my career, my life, if you will, to healthcare at that point. And it was at that point that I said, I'm going to join Johnson & Johnson. And at J&J, I was a director. I was an executive director. I became a CIO within J&J and a vice president of IT. And then through my own personal aspirations to grow and to win and to, do some things really special and important, I left Johnson & Johnson and went on to become the CIO of a $5 billion drug and infusion technologies company. I was a corporate officer there. I broke the glass ceiling and reported to the first woman to report to the chairman of the board, who was also the CEO. And then I went from there to being an SVP at that company and moving on to GE Healthcare. I was an SVP and the highest ranking African-American in IT at GE. And then I retired in 2017. And now I serve on boards and am writing a book to help people understand, how do you go through the ups and the downs and the challenges and the victories in order to be able to win. So how I got my role, I think it's about delivering value. It doesn't really matter what your activities are. I think what matters is, did you step up to the plate and make sure that your value exceeds your salary and exceeds your bonus and your compensation. So delivering value to help the company acquire capital, get money, get share, what have you. And that's one. So the second thing I would say is the people that speak into your life. Mentors play a role. They didn't play as much of a role in my earlier years. I didn't know much about mentors, but later on it became important to me, and I realized how important it was to have people that can tell you, what's going on or what's going wrong or what's going right in how you show up every single day. So that's my story.
That is quite a story, Daphne. I want to go back to the beginning. You talked about how you got the most of your mother's attention, and then you went to college. In our previous conversation, I believe there was a little bit of a pause before you got to college. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I figured you'd ask about my obstacles. And that was it. I think when I look at the obstacles or things that could set me back, I think the first one was really that my high school counselor put a limit and a label on me. And that limit and that label was that he said, Daphne, as a Black girl, you really should not think about going to college. You should do what you're really meant to be, and that is to be a secretary. Because if you won't get into college if you try, and if you get in, you won't get out, meaning I wouldn't graduate. And then if you do get out, no one's going to want to hire you to work for them in their business. So do what you're meant to do, be a secretary. And so I did that. And so when I talked just a minute ago about mentors playing a key role in your life, the people that you allow to speak into your life can have a tremendous impact or effect, either in a positive way or negative way. And he's spoken to my life. And I said, well, he knows what he's talking about. He's being paid, after all, to be a counselor. He must be an expert at it. So therefore, I must go and become a secretary. So I did that, went to secretarial college. So I guess I could have made it in college, but a secretarial college. And I did that, and I became a secretary for Women's Day magazine. I was the secretary to the assistant editor of the magazine. So great place to be, working in a magazine. However, I was on the other side of the desk than I really should have been. And so this was my introduction to low expectations of people of color or of women, and how underachievement can easily happen. Because if we listen to people that say all we can be is, then that underachievement can happen. But if we had people that spoke into our lives in a positive way that says you can be more than you can imagine, then the overachievement is also possible. So that's what happened. So I decided through just a mindset change that I would not be a secretary anymore. I'm going to have a secretary and use that secretary and myself to be able to drive value and service to other people and, in other companies. So that's when I went to college and decided to prove my counselor wrong. And that's, I think, what caused me to accelerate and get my degree in 3 years. And I wanted to be a lawyer as well as get my MBA, but it didn't work out that way. So I ended up just getting my MBA, but it only took me a year to do it.